for parents that are looking to raise anti-racist children, your advice on how to have those conversations at home and things to be talking about with our kids.
So the book has two whole chapters on this. For people who don't have kids, it's also about how all of us are socialized. So it can be useful for people with kids or without. But essentially, we want to think about raising the bar. So it's not just about teaching kids not to be racist or not to do the wrong thing or use the wrong words, but to be actively anti-racist. And so we recommend multiple different things, but there's three big concepts that are skin color, social construction, and systems. So talking to kids over the course of their lives about what gives us skin color, where skin color comes from, and the fact that we all have melanin. And it makes us it gives us our identity, and it connects us to our biological ancestry. It often connects us to family, and it doesn't make us better or worse. Melanin is just melanin. It doesn't make you more intelligent. It doesn't make you more athletic. Well, but that's our skin color, and that's for like a young age. But at a certain point, we can introduce social construction, which is race, which is the framework that our society puts over skin color. And it says people with less melanin are white people, and they deserve more resources and opportunity, whereas people with a lot of melanin are black people, and they deserve fewer resources and opportunities because of the fact that they have a lot of melanin. So their black color disqualifies them from going to certain schools or owning land or having certain businesses. So we have this bizarre system of race that we created that is false. So children need, and we all need to know that this system of race is false, because it's really foundational to white supremacist thinking that we're fundamentally separate racial groups, and we have, that some groups just are better than others or should be distinct from others. That is foundational to white supremacist thinking. So anti-racist thinking, even though we use the concept of race because we have to be able to talk about it, we have to be able to also acknowledge that it's a social construction. So in the book, we talk about how to talk about this with kids in ways that are really accessible. That it's skin color, social construction, and then systems. It's systems, banking system, mortgage system, education systems, businesses, government, that make race real, that really solidify those differences, and then codify them so that the average white family has 10 times the net worth of the average black family, not because they're more intelligent or they're inherently better homeowners or something like that, but because of housing policy throughout the 20th century and access to education, access to things like the GI Bill, that gave benefits and access to resources and opportunities to many, many white people. And so we try to explain some of this history so that people can understand the ways in which those three things line up. And then we give simple examples, like, when my child is painting and they mix all their colors together, I used to say, "Oh, don't do that. You're going to make brown." And now I try to say, "Oh, look at that beautiful brown that you're making. What would you call that brown?" Because I realize how much we denigrate black and brown as colors as a society. So there's like tiny ways we can do it as parents, and then there's big ways. Ultimately, we want to raise kids who are not colorblind, who are able to talk about how race is part of who they are and is part of who their friends are and is part of their experiences, and to be able to see that they live in a society that isn't fixed, that they can contribute to changing. So if they're a white child, they don't have to live with this definition of whiteness for the rest of their lives. If they think our society is oppressive and they want to change what it means to be white, they have the power to do that as a white person. So we want our children to feel empowered to make change, not just by marching. Marching is one thing, but through lots of little ways that they can speak up, where they can listen, and they can also counter some of the racial misunderstandings that we have in our society.
And Ali wrote many great books. One of the great books that she wrote is Raising Race Questions. And at a very micro level, I think a lot of parents they themselves don't know as much as they would like to know to be able to teach it to their children. So some of it, of course, the book guides to do that. But it's also so important for parents and for teachers and for friends or for any of us, just like we did in our group, to wonder together. Teach your kids to wonder together. How can you model showing up in an anti-racist way the best you can, as you are, where you are. So fumble with them, in front of them. Discuss how you might have, oh, maybe you thought about this again. Maybe, I got the feedback. That's right. That probably wasn't how I wanted to go about that. I remember one time my daughter heard something in a book, and she said, well, that's what I would have said. And I had a little bit of an inkling that there was something wrong with that. But I said to her, you're right. I think I would say that too. I don't know. Let's think about it together. And then we discussed it for a while. We came up, oh, yeah, I could see how that's patronizing. That's interesting. And so we sort of figured it out as we went along. So you don't have to have the book memorized to be able to raise children. You just have to have the willingness to ask the question with your children and then find the answer together and then try new things together, just as you are, exactly where you are. You can start. You don't miss anything to start on that path. You have everything you need to do that.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Delgado Podcast. As always, you can get the show notes, video links, and resources mentioned in this episode on my blog at mikedelgado.org. You can also get updates to new shows and get access to the full archive of past shows by following the Delgado Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you ever have suggestions for future topics or guests you want to hear from on this show, please reach out. My email is delgado@ucla.edu. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll chat more next time.